Welcome to F&I Today with Paul Brown, exclusively on CBT News.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of F&I Today, exclusively on CBT News. I'm Paul Brown, Vice President of Ascent Dealer Services. F&I Today is dedicated to providing F&I training techniques and solutions to drive higher CSI and more profits to your dealership's bottom line. Today, we're going to talk about training. Stop training. Please stop training. People, when I say that, I go into dealerships and they go, "What are you talking about, stop training?" I'll tell you a little bit about what I think training is. When I first went to my first F&I school training, I went in and I'd been doing F&I for about 2 years and I'd been doing really good. And I went in there and I got into this course, and it was 4 days, and it was a lot of, when you go in, the customer's gonna say this, and then you say this, and then the customer's gonna say this, and then you say this, and then they should buy. And I left with all these different techniques that I learned in my training, and I came back and I was full of fire. Got into the store and started doing all the things, and I did it exactly the way that I was trained to do it. And I did all the things. They said this, I said this, they said this, I said this, and they didn't buy. And I'm like, wait a second, I did all the right things. What happened here? And what I found is that stuff just simply doesn't work. 1990 called, they want all their word tracks back. They don't work, folks. What we have to do today is we have to get away from training and get into coaching. You know how you spot a trainer? Trainer comes into your store and they bring bagels or donuts. A coach comes into your store and they bring value. So if you have somebody that's in training your store right now, find somebody that can coach your store. And the difference is, yes, today we do use some word tracks, very, very limited though. What we're doing today is we're using thought tracks. What are ways that we can get into the psychology of the customer, make them understand what we're trying to say, but more importantly, understand where they're coming from. So when we get into coaching, we start talking a little bit more about, how do I figure out, when I'm a coach and I go into stores, I'm trying to figure out who's that finance person, what are they all about, what makes them tick, and how can I help grow them? As finance people, we need to do the same thing, but with our customers. We need to sit down with our customers and find out who they are and just have real conversations with them. Folks, this isn't that hard, and we make it overcomplicated sometimes. We are literally just a human being sitting across the desk from another human being having a conversation. We don't need to put pressure on. We don't need to use word tracks. We don't have to use these tactics that we used to use 20 years ago that are kind of sleazy and scuzzy. We don't need any of that. It's a different world. We have a different level of customer, and we're different levels of people. We've grown as an industry, so it's our responsibility to continue to change the common perceptions of the auto industry. So let's stop thinking so much about training, and let's think a little bit more about coaching and what coaching looks like. So how do we coach? Well, first and foremost, we got to find somebody that actually does that. We got to find somebody that's actually willing to give us those little nuggets. And what I see more often than not, when I go into stores and there's a finance director or there's people that are really successful, they tend to hold all that information in, so they get things that work well and they retain them to themselves and they keep them to themselves because they don't want to share it, because heaven forbid somebody else rise up with us. A coach is somebody that brings other people up with them. And they say knowledge is power. I don't know about that. I think sharing knowledge is power. So when you're a finance manager and somebody's coaching you, what you should be doing is also taking that same philosophy and that same mindset, going out into your store and coaching the people around you. But be open to it. Check your ego at the door. There should be no ego in this industry. So when your coach comes in, listen to what they have to say. Don't be so set into, this is the way that we've always done it, so this is the way that I need to continue to do it. And what you're going to find is that you're going to get continually the same results over and over. So a coach, if you're a dealer principal and you're watching this, or you're a general manager watching this, or even a finance professional and you're watching this, your coach should be coming in and bringing value to your team. How do you know that they're doing that? How about sit down and have a conversation with your coach? Sit down and have a conversation with the person that's responsible for coming into your store and growing your F&I department and say, let me ask you a question. What are we doing today? What are we working on? What did we work on last month? What's the goal going forward? What's your philosophy behind what you're teaching my employees? And find out what they're really all about, because what you might find is you have somebody that has good intentions. I'm not saying that trainers have bad intentions. I'm just saying that what we get a lot in the industry today is we get people that are hired out of college and they're from an agency or a TPA or something like that, and they're taught word tracks. And then they learn to recite them properly, and then somebody says, go out and teach this to F&I people. And it's typically people that haven't even ever done the job. So a coach is somebody that's been in the trenches, understands what you're going through, understands what it's like to do all of the right things, and then pass a menu across to a customer and ask them to buy, and they go, no thanks, and they just shut you down, right? They understand that, they get it, so they understand the nuances of all the little things that we do that get us to a better position where a customer may say yes. So when we're talking about coaching, coaching really needs to be something that, not something that we did, but something that we do on a consistent basis. And with that, you should have access to materials that allow you to coach yourself. You should have access to materials where you can watch videos, you can watch things on how it's properly done, like how a proper presentation is, how a proper objection handling conversation is done, so that you can look at it over and over and over. Because what we tend to do is we tend to send our people to a class or to a course or to a workshop, and then we go, they've been coached, they're good for a year. And we maybe do that once a year, we maybe do it once every couple of years. Well, that's not the way that coaching works, folks. Coaching is something that's consistently done that reinforces the ideas that have been given to you. And we look at that, if we just look at like where does coaching happen on a wider scale? Sports. So if we look at sports, if we look at like Super Bowl, when the Super Bowl is done, the teams will take a couple of months off, whatever the case may be, but in that time, you have coaches that are watching game film, they're looking at all the things that happen so that they can help relay to their team what they did well and what they need to work on. And then they come back and they start training camp. And training camp starts with blocking and tackling. It starts with the basics. And then they'll work through that stuff, they'll work on conditioning, and they'll get up to the point where they start doing a little bit more elaborate stuff. But it all comes down to the basics. If you don't have a good fundamental handle on your basics, you're not going to be able to do all of the other things that really matter. If you don't understand personality types, if you don't understand sales psychology, then you're not going to be good at relaying to customers in the way that they want to be presented to. So coaching is something that we need to have in our stores, 100%, and it's something that should be happening all the time and ongoing. You should be doing some type of coaching with your F&I department, or have your F&I department doing some type of coaching daily, right? If they're not, then they're losing their edge. If you're not growing, you're dying. So coaching is something that we need to do every single day, and we need to make sure that the things that we're being coached on are relevant and that they're proven in the marketplace and that they actually work. Not something that somebody just thought of years ago. I just happened not too long ago to be able to look at one of our competitors, and I saw their training manual, and I looked down at the date on the bottom, and it was created in 2017. That is a lifetime ago in the automotive industry. Things have changed so much. I mean, we've had chip shortages, we've had COVID, we've had all these crazy things that have happened in the past 7 years, and they're still training like they did 7 years ago. That's insane. So look at your coaching. Look at who's coaching your team. Is it relevant? Are they bringing new and consistently new information to the table? Are they bringing new techniques and new thought tracks that help the customer buy, not sell the customer, but help the customer make a decision to buy? And then what we find is when we do that, then now all these little conversations that we have with the customers just end up with more yeses. Because again, when we're sitting in front of a customer and we're doing all the things that we've been trained or coached to do, it should feel organic, it should feel conversational, and again, it's just two people sitting across the desk having a conversation. So when we can be coached to do that and understand the psychology behind everything that we do, now the process is much easier, it's much better digested by the customer, and customers just buy more often. So that's today's segment. We need to focus more on coaching, less on training, and make sure that we're doing it every single day. Thanks for joining us on today's show. Again, I'm Paul Brown with Ascent Dealer Services. I'll see you next time for another episode of F&I Today, exclusively here on CBT News.
Thanks for watching F&I Today with Paul Brown, exclusively on CBT News.